Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie. Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 244 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. And before we get to this week's guest, Marty Friedman, I want to remind you about the next Mistress Carrie Grunge Brunch that's headed to City Winery Boston. Tickets are on sale right now for the Mistress Carrie Grunge Brunch featuring Stone Temple Posers at City Winery Boston on Saturday, March 22nd. Doors open at 11 a.m. Music starts at noon. Get the details and the link to get tickets in the concert calendar at mistresscarrie.com. Guitarist Marty Friedman is out on the road right now supporting his latest single, A Prayer, and also his recently released autobiography, Dreaming Japanese. He's at City Winery Boston on February 5th and the Tupelo Music Hall in Derry, New Hampshire on February 6th. If you're a lover of all things guitar, this episode's for you. Allow me to introduce you to Marty Friedman. Marty, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Nice to meet you.
Looks like you're holed up in a hotel right now.
That's the truth. Yeah, I'm in Denver, Colorado.
Beautiful this time of year.
Who gets to see anything other than the venue and the airport and the bus anyway, though? But it's all nice. What a great town, great people here. We had a good time.
When you're out on the road, there are a couple different philosophies. There are the bands that go out and want to tour like crazy, 5-6 shows a week and just bang it out because they're away from home. And then there's other artists that kind of want to stagger days off so that they don't have so much of a breakneck pace and can enjoy themselves. What side of that are you on?
I'm coming out here to play. I'm not a tourist. I just as soon do 7 days a week rather than 5 or 6. But we're doing about 5 days a week most of the time, sometimes 6. It's all good. We're just hungry to play, the whole band, and you know, vacations are separate.
When I talk to singers, they stagger days off a lot to protect their voices. Do you have to worry about overtaxing your hands?
No. Actually, no. But that is a good point. I guess for singers, they would want to have more days off, and that would definitely be necessary. But that's one of the joys of not, actually singing with my voice. I do my singing with my guitar, so my voice can be totally trashed and still... Actually, my voice is trashed from doing a lot of interviews, but that doesn't matter on stage.
If you didn't play for a few days, would your hands hurt? Do you have to play every day to keep your dexterity?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, sometimes if I, for whatever reason, I'm not playing for a week or even 2 weeks, you come back and it just feels even better, actually. It feels, I can do this, It's very weird. It's a weird thing. You don't lose anything. I think maybe if you've been playing for like 2 or 3 years or something like that, if you're still a kid and then you take a couple days off or a week off, it's kind of weird. But, I've been playing since I was 14, so it's really not going to affect anything if I stop playing for a couple days or a week or so.
You're a musician that's part of the KISS Club, right? That you were inspired to become a musician because you saw KISS?
Sure, yeah. I'm sure there's a huge club of those guys, and I'm definitely one of them.
It's funny the different eras. Like there's the people that were inspired by Ed Sullivan and the Beatles. There's the people that were inspired by Kiss. There's the people that like were inspired by Back in Black. It's really interesting, these very defining lines of rock and roll. And where would the bands we have now be if those certain things just didn't happen?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's always funny to me how so many people pick the same things, like the ones that you just mentioned. I'm sure the people in my parents' generation saw Elvis on the Ed Sullivan Show, and that was, that's probably the biggest event of all time because before that, there was nothing that even resembled mainstream rock and roll. Of course, there was rhythm and blues was like really big in the certain circuits, but not anywhere near the mainstream. So when Elvis came out, he was the first guy, aggressively playing a guitar and singing rock music. So that was the very first. And so I think those landmarks are kind of important. And for me, it was definitely Kiss.
I have a theory about music that you have kind of two defined eras. There's the soundtrack to your childhood, the music you get exposed to unwillingly as a kid, that your parents, your older brother, the cool neighbor exposed you to. And then there's something that changes it for you. So I'm assuming Kiss is what changed it for you. But was Elvis the soundtrack to your childhood? What were you listening to growing up?
Elvis to me, I mean, I'm kind of a Elvis fanatic. I mean, I'm not religious, but if there was a God, I would say it's Elvis. So Elvis is a definite special existence in my life. But Kiss was the first band that made me want to like actually get up and play because I wanted to play sports. And I wasn't very good at sports, but I saw Kiss and I'm like, well, that's kind of like sports, and I think I can do that. So yeah, but the soundtrack of my childhood and now it's always kind of based on music from my parents' generation, like in the 50s and the early 60s and the girl groups, especially Phil Spector and the idol singers of those early years and everything up till the Beatles is what I consider the golden age of music. And the standards like West Side Story and things like that. And that's where I always come back to as the base. But on top of that, I've always been into Japanese music and Japanese current music, which keeps getting better and better and better. So it's not like I have to go back. It's like you listen to the chart, what's in the top 10 in Japan right now, and I like 9 of the songs on it, and they're just always growing. And so it's not like I'm kind of stuck in my childhood of music or in one period or the other. I'm always searching for new music and discovering new music and influenced by new music. And so it's just endless, really.
As someone that's been playing the guitar since you were 14, someone like me looks at it because I have no musical ability. I've never been able to play, have never been able to write music. There are so many guitarists that talk about the unlimited possibilities of the guitar. And for someone that literally plays every day and has played since you were a kid, what is it about the guitar that makes it such a perfectly designed instrument where there's no limit to what it can do? Because you would think by now everything would have been done already.
Well, I think what you said could be said about any musical instrument, really. It's not just the guitar. And for me, I'm not really a instrument nerd at all, a guitar nerd, or even a guitar lover for that matter. I just play guitar because that's the instrument I started on. And when you're 14, the guitar is probably the easiest instrument to start getting something done with. You can pick up a guitar and in a couple months you're playing in a punk rock band. You can't do that with a stand-up bass, or you can't do that with a violin or other instruments, but a guitar has a secret power where suddenly you get a pass in real life. If you're, unless you're an absolute virtuoso violin soloist, no one's gonna you know, pat you on the back. But if you're a guitar player and you play some crappy version of For Elise by Beethoven, people think you're a genius, and I don't know where that comes from. But when you're 14 years old, that stuff goes a long way. You start playing, and all of a sudden, you were this goofball. Now you've got lots of girlfriends, and you're popular, and it's like, wow, that's the magic of the guitar. And I think you find that when you're a little kid, but then when you grow up, it's just a work tool, and you use it as means to an end of playing music.
How did you realize you were starting to get good at it? What riff, what song, when you were learning, that you finally mastered and went, oh, wait, I think I got the hang of this thing?
I never really had that. I just got into a band right away. I had been playing for a couple months, and we were just making noise. And when people listen to you and they don't leave, you start to think, because it probably sounded horrible, but we gathered fans and fans. And I went into great detail on this in my book, my new autobiography, Dreaming Japanese. And I talked about it because, I started playing right away, and people would show up and watch us play. And why are they watching us play? And we just felt like we had to entertain them right from the beginning. So even though we didn't really know what we were doing, we were posing like rock stars and jumping around and trying to play as best as we could with what little abilities we had. And so I never really had a moment wow, I'm pretty good at this. But I did have a moment early on where I'm like, well, this is what people are enjoying. They like it when you look cool while you're playing, and they like it when you're playing in tune, and they like it when you're playing a song that they like, and they like when you're doing something flashy. So you get all these messages from watching the people, how they react to you. So I was very fortunate to grow up in that environment, as opposed to nowadays when you make a video and you have to look at the comments, and you get a big ego from big good comments, and you feel depressed from bad comments. And so I didn't really have any of that. I just had the immediate response, human responses, watching their faces and how they treat you after you play. People treat little rock stars, little 14, 15-year-olds differently than they do, people in the science club or whatever. Of course, science club people probably bring more into the society than a bunch of rock heshers at 15, but it's just the way it is. And so yeah, I really got reaction from other people at a very, very early age. And I never really thought about my playing, oh, I'm good now, or I need to get better, or I've just always tried to do new things on the guitar, but I never really thought, wow, I'm really good now, because it's an endless, endless learning process.
I've had a lot of artists come on the show that have written a book, and I'm so curious how you get over the hump of the first blank page. Was that a daunting process for you when you were writing?
No, I think that's a big problem if you're writing a fiction book. But I was writing my autobiography, which, all I did was tell my story, exactly what it was. The hardest part of doing it was making sure that everything in the book is all things that have not been said in interviews, and things that would be of interest to people. Something that might be interesting to me about a personal family thing, someone in Ohio is not going to care about that. So, but I did want to, introduce myself and talk about family things and parts of life that don't come up in rock interviews. And so I made sure enough of that character building was in there so they know who they're talking about, because people don't know me other than this guitar player, or this Japan ambassador or whatever they know me from, but they absolutely don't know anything about my personal life and my personal experiences. So that was the thing, kind of making sure that everything in there was all new information. And that was not the hardest part, but that was probably the most fun part because I was thinking, wow, people are going to freak out when they know this and nobody knows this. And the hard part was whittling it down. You know, it's a 400-page book, which is long. And the editors, you know, it was much longer. And the editor said, we got to cut some things out. So we went over things that didn't necessarily need to be in there as much as other things and tightened it up so much that I think it reads super, super easily and keeps people very surprised and very interested. And yeah, the hardest part was whittling it down, really.
You talked about social media and that immediate access that everyone has to everyone nowadays. Did you second guess the idea of releasing so much of your personal story in a book? Because once you kind of let the genie out of the bottle, you can't put it back in.
I didn't think that way when I was writing it. When I was writing it, I was thinking, well, this is my autobiography. I'm going to put everything in here. I don't care how personal it is, how embarrassing it is. And I didn't really paint myself in such a great light all of the time. I think that normal human tendency when writing something like this is to kind of bolster your case or something, or show yourself in a good light or whatever. But I found when reading other guys' books, that wasn't as interesting as reading things you might have done wrong or things you regret or things you're embarrassed about. So I've tried to say, look, I'm not going to toot my horn in here. Of course, when it deserves to be tooted, I will. But for the most part, it's just flat, plain, honest stuff. So there's a lot of embarrassing things in there. And I didn't think about it until the thing came out. And then when it came out, I'm like, you know what? Next time I do like a meet and greet, people are going to know this about me. I'm like, oh my God. I'm kind of like, at that moment, I kind of regretted it. They're going to know family things like, you know, I tried sticking a locust up my sister's ass one time. Things like that. I didn't think when I was writing about it, this is fun, this is great. And then when it came out, I'm like, you know, now I'm really committed to all this. People know all kinds of personal details about me. And so the first couple of weeks after that, I was kind of regretting it. But like being on the road and meeting people who have read it, I'm just very excited finding out what they found interesting about it and what they picked up about it. And yeah, I don't mind it at all. You know, it's all truth. And what better time to tell the truth about yourself, expose yourself, than an autobiography?
You're going to be in Boston on February 5th at City Winery Boston. And your band, you mentioned earlier, kind of this Japanese ambassador. It comes up a lot when people talk about you and your career, that you live in Japan and your band is all Japanese. There are a lot of people in the United States that have never been able to travel that far and go to Japan. What would you tell them about the country and the people, the food, the experience, that to people that have never been before?
Well, I think it's the closest you can get to being on another planet and being safe and enjoying another planet. You know, sometimes you're in a place that is just so dangerous you feel like you're on another planet. But Japan is the complete opposite. I believe it's the safest country in the world, considering the fact that there are full-on metropolises everywhere. I mean, Tokyo is the highest population city in the world or something like that. And yet I believe it's the safest metropolis I've ever been in. And I live straight downtown, a 2-minute walk to the red light district, which is completely safe at all hours of the night. It's an absolute must just to see something that you haven't seen before. And I mean, the food is just out of this world, and the people are very friendly and helpful to foreigners. And it's not too terribly English friendly, so I'll say that right off the bat. And I think that's what's good about it. I mean, does everything have to be exactly the same as every other country in the world? I mean, why fly, 15 hours or wherever you're coming from to like sit in a Starbucks and read an English menu? I mean, I don't get that at all. So Japan is not 1,000% English friendly, but people are extremely helpful even if they can't speak English. And I just recommend it for everybody. Music is just on a whole new plane, and music is different there. 80% of the music that people listen to is domestic music, not American, English, Canadian, whatever. And that's going to freak a lot of people out in a very good way. And it's exciting.
For anyone that's never seen you live that may be coming to City Winery or hitting you up on another date of the tour, what can they expect when they come and see you?
The main thing that you're going to get is a jolt of very, very positive energy. I don't care to have people come to the show and think, wow, he's a super guitar player with tons of technique. I really, really am sad when people walk away with that. So I don't let that happen. We're going to give you energy that's going to last you in the coming weeks or whenever. You're going to just feel this positive energy to face whatever's going on in your life. Go to work with a stronger power and feel good and feel like, when you walk away from a show or an event and you feel better than you walked in before, that's the way I like to feel when I go to things, and that's what we definitely deliver. And just ask anyone who's gone to any of our shows. I mean, that's what they're going to tell you. I mean, you might think, oh, Marty Friedman, he's got these instrumental albums and stuff like that. It's definitely not your typical instrumental concert. We're going to give you a lot of energy to walk away with, and I really can't wait to play for everybody in the Boston area and everywhere on the tour.
Well, that's what makes, I think, rock music so special is it's so focused on the live show. It's so focused on the live experience, that communal energy exchange between the crowd and the artist. So I think more so than any other genre of music, rock music kind of has mastered that in spades.
Well, I don't know about the rest of the genre, but you're going to see something different with our band. There's a definite Japanese energy that doesn't exist here. And our energy is even kind of rare in Japan because what we do is, you can't really explain it. You kind of just have to see it, but we get the audience involved in every second of the show, which is really, really strange for something that is about 98% instrumental.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Marty.
Thank you so much. I hope to see you out there.
There he is, guitarist Marty Friedman. You can see him on February 5th at City Winery, Boston, and on February 6th at the Tupelo Music Hall in Derry, New Hampshire. If you want to hear some of his music, check the show notes for this episode. I make a corresponding playlist for every episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast that features all of my guest music and all the artists and songs that we referenced in the interview. You'll also find all of Marty Friedman's links, including the link to order his autobiography, Dreaming Japanese, and you'll find all the Mistress Carrie links as well. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and comment for the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday, plus every weekday you get the sit rep. The Situation Report breaks down all of your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment updates in about 5 minutes. And you never know when we're going to release a bonus episode. Join me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern for my weekly streaming video show, Cocktails in the War Room. And of course, you can always hear me on the radio. Get the details on all of that and more at MistressCarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie Podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.